Hello and welcome back to my channel. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for those following along in real life time for the delay in getting this next video out. Life gets in the way sometimes. So last time, for a quick recap, we made some assets, we made our jam, we made our butter, we made it so that we can remove the lid off our jam, ready for this video. This could be a long video. I'll see how it goes. If it's too long, I'll chop it into two. It'll be a part A and part B. So without further ado, let's get going. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is, because we're going to be using it a lot in testing while we're doing this, we're going to go to our utensils folder. We're going to just drag and drop our butter knife into the world. Just for sanity's sake, we're just going to check to see whether we can actually pick it up. So go ahead and try that. We get our message. And yes, we can pick it up and move it around. And we can drop it again. Great stuff. Okay, good. Now today's work will be a lot in the butter knife and the bread. We'll be changing some of what we've already done to make it so we can move forward. So let me just open up my project here, and one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to open up our butter knife blueprint, which I've already done, and we're also going to open up our Kitchen Manager blueprint because we're going to be using that. We're also going to open up our Kitchen Manager interface. We're going to be adding some more stuff to that. And that's what we're going to do first off, so that we've got them there to call as and when we need. So at the moment we have stage complete, give current stage, start new order. We're going to add one more function, and we're going to call it give ingredients, I can never spell that word, for current stage. And what we're going to use this for is we're going to use it to know what we need to be having on our knife at this stage, so that we know that we've got the correct thing on our knife, so we're not trying to spread the jam before the butter, so on and so forth, or we're not trying to spread nothing. So we're going to need an output on this, and that's going to be our ingredient name. I'm just going to call it sorry, I've got the wrong one. Yes, no, I haven't got the wrong one. I've got the correct one. We're going to call it ingredient. We're going to compile, and we can go ahead and close that now. We don't need that. So let's put that into action. So we go to our Kitchen Manager. We've already got open here. We've got our interfaces, give ingredients for current stage. I'm going to open that up. This one's quite easy. We have our prep stage map, and we have our current stage. We'll drag those both in. And we're going to, from here, we're going to say find. And we're going to find this. And the result we're going to, it's a nice and simple function. Basically, it looks through the prep stage, because in our prep stage is in our ingredients data table. recipes data table. So we'll take bread and jam. We're going to see we have an ingredients list, we have instructions, and we have prep stages. Okay. And the prep stages, which is what we've got here, tells us what we need. Or we should here have butter and jam. Okay. One thing more for preparation we need to do is go to our enums folder, to our prep stages. We're going to add another one. I'm just going to call this completed. We're going to save that. And while we're in our bread and jam, which is what we're going to be working on mostly today, for both of these, we're going to add a new one. So this is stage 3. And it is completed. We're going to add here, completed, and we're going to leave it none because there's no ingredients required. While we're going ahead, we can do it for the toast as well. Except for the toast will be an extra stage, so it's stage 4. Completed, and we can add another one here. So we know they're all done already. Okay. One thing we need to do as well, while we're doing stuff with data tables, data assets, my apologies, we're going to go to our food items data. We're going to open up our jam, and we see where it says can have items added. We're going to uncheck that. Okay, we're going to make sure we do that in our butter as well. It already is, if you've been following along. Our jam, we do need to have that unchecked, or else you will find it not work later on and be wondering why. Okay, so we can go ahead and close those. We're going to leave the Kitchen Manager open for a moment. And we are going to go back to our butter knife. Now you may find that we're going to be darting around left, right and center here a little bit. But don't worry, just pause the video if you get a little bit lost. The first thing we're going to do in here, we've got our base mesh, we've got our grab point, and we've got our pivot. Okay. Highlight your base mesh. And we're going to add a new static mesh. Okay, static. A new static mesh, and we're going to call this food on knife mesh. Okay. Now we want to move that forward a little bit. So the settings I've got for this are 2 in the Z, -9, sorry, -0.9 in the Y, and 40 in the Z. And that sort of puts it there. The mesh we're going to look for is I'm not sure whether we actually did that last time. Let me just double check on that. Now meshes folder. Utensils, no. We didn't do it, but I believe it is the same as. We can use the same as. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our ingredients, go to our butter. We're going to look for this one here. That's the one. And we're going to add that to our mesh. And you see it sort of up in the air. Yes, that's what I did do. I remember doing this now. So it's been a little while since I did the prep for this. So you can see we've got it on our knife here. Okay. Now, I believe the pivot point for that is at the top there. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag that mesh in SM12 into our world. Go to our modeling very quickly. Make sure we've got AutoGen folder. Actually, no, I do apologize. If I do it this way, we're going to overwrite it. We don't want to overwrite it. We are going to drag this into our butter knife and copy it here. Then when we open up our butter knife, we can drag that one out. We want it as a separate mesh. Then you're going to go to your transform and edit pivot, and just put the pivot to center. Center left, no, center right. Center right looks about right, and click accept. Go back to our butter knife. Okay, we can I forgot to set this to current folder. Edit pivot, just accept it again. So now if we go to our content drawer, we see we've got that here, and if we drag it out now, the pivot is in the center, so we can delete these, we don't need these. And we're going to change that mesh on our butter knife. You can now see it's a little bit, so on our knife, it's still a little bit out. If you like, you can manually drag it to your knife. Do make sure you turn off the snapping. Better. Just get it so it looks like it's on the knife. And we're going to set the scale 1, 1, and then 0.4775. I don't think it's a strange number. And there's, oh. Make sure you unlock the lock, 0.4775. So what we get then is a mesh like this on our knife, and we can place it so it looks good on the end of our knife. So whatever you're happy with. Compile that, and that's our mesh. And the pivot, I also moved, notice our pivot's there, because this is what we're going to be using to where we're going to direct the face down for what we're hitting. So we're going to put it about there, right in the middle of that. Okay. Okay. And that's what we're going to do for that. So let's hit the event graph running. There's quite a bit to do here. But we have at the moment an empty event graph. So let's start from the very beginning. Let's start from our begin play. The first thing for our begin play, we want to get a food on knife mesh. We want to say set world scale 3D, and we want to set it to 0. We don't want to see it, and we can just make sure, just for safekeeping, we're going to say set visibility, and we're going to make sure that it is visible in case it gets turned off later in code or at some point in code. So we have that. The next thing we're going to do is, what have we got in here? We've got our event begin overlap. We don't need to do anything with that. Interfaces. We're going to make a new custom event. So right click, custom event. So it's been a while since I've done this, so I'll have to keep referring back to my project. We're going to call this reduce mesh scale. Okay. And we're also, first thing off the bat we need to do is make up a new function. So we're going to add a new function and we're going to call this calculate start and end scale. End, not init, end. Okay, no inputs, no outputs. Makes it nice and easy. We do need to add a few variables. So let's go down to our variable section. First one we're going to do is going to type in click count, and that's going to be of type integer. I want to know how many times we click our mouse. Then we're going to want to add another one, and we're going to call this start scale. It'll be a type vector. We're going to add another one called start food mesh scale, also a vector. And then we're going to add one more for now. We're going to call this target scale. Okay. The first thing we do is we're going to drag in our click count, and we're going to see whether this is equal to 1. Okay. It makes a difference to the mesh size. We're going to hold down B, get ourselves a branch. And we're going to set the branch like so. We're going to get our start scale. For true, we're going to set our start scale, and we're going to set it to our start mesh scale. Ooh. Sorry, start food mesh scale. Compile. Now we need to make sure we set this start food mesh scale to the same as what we have set it here. So you can right click on scale and copy that. Go back to your event graph. So you calculate start. We can click this here. You can right click and we can paste that, and it will set that as its default value. Okay. And if that's false, we're going to set our target scale to 0. We're then going to get our start scale, and we're going to do a minus, subtract, and here we're going to do a divide. We're going to convert this to float. We're going to divide it. Actually, no, not going to convert it to float. We're going to convert it to an integer, and we're going to divide it by 2. So basically, we're taking our start scale, which we've set here. Okay. We're dividing it by 2, and we're subtracting that. So we don't know how much we want to move it at a time. We're going to get our target scale, put it on here, and we're going to set it with the result of that calculation. Okay, so that's that function done. So we go back to our event graph. First thing we're going to do is drag in the new function we made. Drag off of here, and we're going to say add timeline, like so, and we're going to call this reduce food on knife, which will do exactly what it says on the tin. We're going to make sure we pay from start, not from there. Double click to open that up, and it's just quite a simple number one. So the first thing we want to do is set our length to 1. We're going to add a new track, float track. We're going to call it alpha, and we're going to shift and click 2 times to give ourselves 2 points, just like we've done before. First one is going to be set at 0, 0. Make sure you click tab or enter, because it won't set them. And the second one we're going to set to 1, 1. And you can remember, click on these to fill the screen. And as always, I like to give them a little bit of shape and use auto. But again, if you want it linear, you're more than welcome to leave it like that. Okay, so now we've got that. And that's set up, we have our alpha pin here. We're going to get our food on knife mesh. We're going to set world scale 3D on the update. What are we going to set it to? So we drag off here and we're going to say lerp. We're going to lerp vector. And we're going to get our start scale for A, our target scale for B, and our alpha for alpha. So, okay. Now we're going to do a little bit more, because obviously we're going to want to use this in different ways. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of our direction, and we're going to type in switch. We're going to make sure we connect that to fix. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to require 2 clicks to spread the butter. So we want basically it to look like we're taking half the butter on each click. You can do it as many clicks as you like, but I'll show you where we can change that later. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag in our food on knife mesh. We want to know how its current scale, so we're going to say get world scale. Okay. And we're going to set that as our new start scale on forward. Then we're going to check to see if this is equal, so exactly equal to 0. If it's true, we're going to do one thing. If it's false, we're going to do something else. So we're going to need another new variable. So we're going to add that, and we're going to say has food on knife, and this is of type Boolean. All that, and we're going to drag in has food on knife to 0. So in other words, when that mesh gets to 0, we no longer have any food left on our knife. And we're going to also then set our click count back to 0. Okay, so that's it for the forward. And for the backward, well, yeah, backward. I thought I'd come crazy then. We're going to drag in our has food on knife, and we're going to click that. Ooh. And we're going to call it as food. And I believe, okay, that's all we need to do for that particular event. Okay. We're going to do another custom event now, so make yourself some space. Custom event, right click, custom event. And we're going to call this add to knife. Oh, it's a bit small. Sorry, my apologies. Add to knife. And the first thing we're going to do, if you've been following the series, you'll be able to get this. If you've not been following the series, you need to go back and do this, or else you're going to have to get the Kitchen Manager cast to it, so on and so forth. So we're going to use our function we made up before called Get Kitchen Manager. And we're going to say give current stage. Make sure you have the message on the little envelope on it. And we're going to say if this is not equal enum, not the not equal. Make sure you get the right one. If it's not equal to none, we're going to go ahead and do something. So what we're going to do, okay, so first of all we need to make another variable, and we're going to call this ingredient actor ref, which we will be setting later, and that's of our BPP ingredient. Okay, we're going to drag that in and make sure we have the correct ones. Then we're going to say is lid okay. Let me just double check whether we have those variables there for us before we go ahead. So let me look on my project here. Give me 1 moment. Where have I set them? Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our blueprints folder, blueprint parents, and ingredients. Okay, we don't have them in here. So we need to add a couple of variables. First one we're going to say is empty, Boolean, and the next one is is lid off. Actually, yeah, that's fine. We could end up with a problem with our jam pot here. Let me just open up the jam pot and just double check that. Same item, ingredient, jam. Okay, so now you see we've got it as a 0. So what you want to do is go into your jam Okay, where it says is lid off 0, we're going to right click that, find references. Where we've got set is lid off, we're going to drag in the is lid off that we just made instead. Okay. Oh. So in this case it's set to false, so we're going to set as to false. And the other one we got here, we're going to set to true. Do that. Compile. Go to the is lid off 0 and go ahead and delete that. Is empty is fine. We're not using that. Okay. But we may well do in our no, we're not using that. So let me just double check that we're not setting any defaults. Okay. So that's fine. Now we can go back. I do apologize for darting around. Like I say, it's been a while, and also it's the nature of the beast sometimes. I'm going to go back to here. I need to get back to my reference as well. We're going to say is lid off. And we're going to say is empty. We're going to get both of those. Okay. And while I think of it, let's just double check in our butter actor. Yes. So go to our butter actor. We can open it in the full blueprint or whatever. Going to go to our is lid off and make sure the default for that is true because we don't have a lid on our butter. If you want to put your butter in a container and you want to use the same logic as the jam jar to take off a lid of a container and then use the butter, then you would set that to false and the logic will set it as needed. Okay, so that's all we need to do. So we can close out butter for now. We can close out jam for now. And we can go back to our butter knife. I'm just doing this while I'm thinking about it. I do apologize, like I say. Right. Now, empty, you want it to be not. You want a not Boolean. Okay. Because if it's not empty, we want it to read through, and we want the lid off to read through. So we're going to now use an AND Boolean. And we're going to connect that to this. And we're going to have another bind. When you're doing your code and there's lots of elements in it, it pays to do simple checks to stop anything. You can put messages afterwards here, which we'll probably go ahead and be doing later on. You know, like for this one, you can just say whatever the fault is, so we can do that. But for now, we're not going to worry about that. So we're going to drag in our ingredient actor ref again. And we're going to call, if we've got it, give ingredient. Okay, we don't have that. So let's open up our interfaces. BPI ingredients. Yeah, we've only got the one at the moment. Okay, we're going to need quite a few on here. So we're going to add quite a few here. So we're going to do a bit of work here. The first one we're going to do is add a new function, and we're going to say, I'm going to call this remove from pack. And double check, no, that has no inputs, no outputs. Okay, so it's nice and easy for us. Next one we're going to do is we're going to add another one, and we're going to call this can be spread. And this has an output of a Boolean. Call that can be spread. Question mark. Make sure you keep saving and compiling as you go along. Next one, which is what we were looking at just now, called give ingredient type. Yes, it's a giver. We're going to want an output, and we're going to call it ingredient. And the output is going to be ingredient in the underscore ingredient name. Okay. And we're going to do another one. Give ingredient data asset. I'm not sure we're going to use this one today, but let's just make it anyway. We're just going to call this PA ingredients, and it's going to be the type of PA underscore ingredients. Okay, nice and simple. So again, keep compiling it. Okay, and now one more. This is going to be called can have spreaded items. Very difficult to come up with names of these, so if you think of a better name than what I'm using once you see how it's used, go ahead, change the name, and even give me a comment. Say, look, you know, I think this would be named better than this because it makes more sense. Then I'm happy to do an errata for the video and give people the news. Can have spreaded items, and again that's a type Boolean, and we're going to compile that. Okay, we should be done on that. So let's go back to our knife. Over here we can say give ingredient type. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do this custom event first, and we'll go ahead and we'll fill in these new types on the can't get my words today. We're going to fill in the functions in our parent blueprint. We're going to promote this to a variable, and we're going to call this knife content. So what do we have on our knife? Now, because we're going to change what it looks like, we don't want to have two meshes. We can just change it sorry, I have just done this in the wrong place. My apologies. Cut that. I should be in the butter knife. That. My apologies. Variable. Now I think I did that in group ingredients. Go ahead, and if you follow this along, go ahead and delete the incorrect variable. Okay. So like I say, we're going to change our material to make it look like jam instead of butter, butter instead of jam. So drag out your food knife on mesh, quite simple, set material. Now, later on, I'm going to be showing you how we can do this a little bit more dynamically, but for now we're going to do this a little bit easier. So we'll drag off of here and we're going to type in select. And we're going to drag in our knife content into the wildcard here. And we're going to ignore the none. The butter, we're going to use our, rename it in this project, butter instance. And the jam, we're going to do our jam instance. The reason I said that dynamically because we can then maybe change our colors of the jam depending on what flavor jam it is. So we can do things a little bit different. That'll be a little bit down the road. Ignore our bread, ignore our toast, we're only caring about bottled jam. Okay. We're going to drag in our start scale. And we're going to set that to start food mesh scale here. Okay. We're going to get our target scale. And we're going to set that to 0. Basically, we don't want double click our jam. We're just going to do a single click. So it's going to start at that scale, reduce it to that scale. Okay. Because this is, we're adding it to the knife. Okay. And then we're going to say, we're going to get our timeline. So if you look under your components, you'll find your reduced food on mesh, food on knife. We're going to drag that in. We're going to say reverse from end. And the reason these seem like they're back to front is because we are running this in reverse. Yeah. So we're starting at 0 and going back to its proper scale. That's why it looks a bit odd. Okay, we're going to drag in our ingredients actor ref again. We're going to call another one of those functions called remove from pack. Make sure you get the message. Job's done. Okay, so we're basically using the same timeline, but we're using it in reverse. And instead of writing another timeline, we can just use a reference from it, and we can call the function from the reference. So again, make sure you save and compile. I've got 4 unsaved for some reason. Okay, so what is next? That was a knife. Okay, we're going to have another custom event. Right click, make ourselves a custom event. We could call this finished spreading. Okay, again, sorry about not zooming in. Finished spreading. We are going to need another new variable. I don't think we have. No, we don't. So let's add ourselves a new variable, and we're going to say can. Oh, spread. Question mark. It's a question, and it's of type Boolean. And what you need to do is make sure you compile this can spread, and very important here again, or else it won't work. And I've spelled that wrong, so let me rename that. Very important. Make sure you set that to true as default and compile. So can spread we're going to set here to true. I know it's set true here, but later on we'll be unsetting that, so we need to make sure we're still true. We're going to get our ingredients actor reference. We're going to get our number we don't have. Okay, so is that in here? Yes. So BPP ingredients again, our blueprint ingredients. We're going to add another new variable. We're going to call it number of applications, and that's of a type integer. If we compile it, we're just going to be able to get hold of it here. I'm going to say number of applications. We're going to go ahead and get that, I believe. Yes, we are. We're going to check whether this is greater than or equal to 2. Now I've chosen 2 because I just think, 2 times clicking to butter or jam your bread is fine, but if you want more or less, if you want it 1, just set it to 1. If you want it more, set it to more. Up to you. Okay, so we're going to hold down B, get ourselves a nice branch, and we're going to check. Now if this is true, we're going to get our kitchen manager. I'm going to say set stage complete message. We've finished that stage because it's true. If it's false, go ahead and do what it wants to do. And we're going to get our ingredients actor reference again, because now we need to say, well, okay, this is no longer, for this stage, the applications are no longer 2. We want to set this to back to 0. So we're going to drag out the stage here, and I just keep my left mouse down, hold R, and to get a reroute node. And we're going to say, is this equal? Remember, choose equal enum to completed. Give ourselves a branch. We'll know whether we've finished the stages. Remember, we just added the completed to our recipes. If that's so, we're going to get our kitchen manager again, and we are going to start new order message. Again, I'm going to hard code this, but later on in the series we will be making this as a more dynamic thing, and this probably will change this code here also. So for now, I'm just going to, let's keep it simple, keep it to bread and jam. Like I say, if you wanted to do the toast. Okay, so that's that function done. And okay, event left click. Now, event left click, I believe, is an interact interface. So open up your interact, double click the event left click. You know you've got the right one because it's got this little symbol here. Okay, so we're going to get a pivot. We're going to get world rotation. We're also going to get world location. From here, we're going to get up vector. And we're going to multiply the up vector by float. And I'm going to say negative 100. So we're going to look 100 units down. Quite a lot, but again, change it as you wish. Now, if we, just a word of note, if we change your pivot point and your Z is not pointing up, it's pointing down, then you can just put that as 100, not negative 100. Okay. We're going to get our world location. We're going to add this to that. Okay, move that down there. Back to here, we are going to get a sphere trace by channel. Move it out a bit. Your start location comes from the world location here. End location is here. Now I've put this as a radius of 2, but let's make it a little bit bigger just to make it a little bit easier. Let's try it at 2 first. If you find it's a bit fiddly, you can change this. Okay, visibility channel is fine. Ignore self is fine. Let's do a debug for 1 frame so we can see what's happening. And also another little tip to help you know whether things are working. You can come off of here. You need to break this. We can always put a print string here to know what actor it's hit, which we may or may not do later. So our hit actor, so the actor we've hit, we're going to say does implement an interface, and the interface we want is BPI ingredients, because we want it to be know whether we are hitting an ingredient. What we're doing here is we're hitting it when we left click, when we've got the knife in our hand. When we left click, we will get a sphere trace going down and seeing what it hits. So if it hits butter, it will tell it it's butter. Butter has the interface of ingredients, so this will show true. If we hit the table, this will show false because it doesn't hold the interface. So let's have a nice branch, connect it to here. And because you're normally going down, you're likely to always have a hit result, and if it doesn't matter. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to drag out of here, and we're going to use one of the few times that I do actually cast, because I actually want a solid reference to what we're actually hitting. Cast to BPP ingredients. We're only casting to the base class, so it's got no static mesh information as such, or anything big in it. It's true. You can put some rewrites in here, make it look a little bit tidier. Okay. Then we've got our ingredients actor ref. Remember I said we're going to set that at some point, and that's where we're going to set it here. Okay. We're going to drag off of here and we can say can have threaded items message. Drag off there, click branch. We'll do the true first. and then we'll go ahead and do the false. So basically we're saying, is this hitting something that can have something put on it, i.e. the bread? We need to do another little check first. First of all, we need to know whether we have food on our knife and we can spread. Okay, remember the can spread we set initially to true, because obviously the first time we want to be able to know that that's true. Both of these have got to be true, so we need an and boolean. Make sure you choose and boolean. Run them together. Do a branch. The true here. You could go ahead and move these above when we do the false. Any difference really, it's whatever you prefer. So if these are both true, means we can go ahead and spread our butter or jam. So the immediately thing we're going to do is can spread to stop people spamming the key. Then we're going to get our ingredient actor F, and we're going to we actually made this one. Apply, yes, apply spreadable. I think we did it in the last. But we are going to, no, we're not going to do that. Apply spreadable message. Make sure you get the message. We're going to change this a little bit. We need some more information. So open up your apply spreadable message. We're going to add an input. And the input is going to be called butter knife reference, because we need to get a reference back to our butter knife. And that's, I believe, is BP. Yes, it's our BP underscore butter knife. Oh, what is wrong with me today? BP underscore butter knife, not butter. Make sure you get the correct one. Go ahead, compile and save that. That's our butter knife. You see it's here. We're in our butter knife, so we can just get a reference itself. And that does that for us. Get your ingredients reference again, or you can drag off of this one, it's up to you. And we're going to say bind. Now I'm not sure whether we got this one. Event. No, we don't have that yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that. So in our BP ingredients reference, we need to add ourselves an event dispatcher. And let me just make sure I have correct one. Okay. It's quite simple. So in our BP parent, ingredients parent, come down here, we're going to add an event dispatcher, and we're going to call it finished spreading. No inputs, no outputs. Make sure you compile, or if we won't be able to reference it. And then back here we can say bind event to finished spreading. Okay. We're now, obviously we're going to bind event, we need to set the event. So we're going to go here, event to actually create the event. And we're going to look for finished spreading, the one that we made earlier. Okay, so that's all we need for the true. Now, if we've hit butter or jam, we want to do something else. We want to put it on our knife, don't we? So, from our false here, drag in our ingredients actor reference. We're going to look for can spread, which again is one of the ones we made. We haven't filled any of these out yet. We will be doing that shortly. Do not panic and do not skip it, or else you will have nothing working. Oh, Control said that. We are going to have a branch. What am I thinking? Branch. Okay. So we need a branch. So can it be spread? If it can't, we don't care, because we're adding something to the knife which needs to be spread at this stage. Okay. If it can, we're going to go up to our event graph here, add to knife, or you could just right click and find add to knife that way. Okay, that is this event completed. Okay, I believe that is all we need to do in the knife for now. We need to fill in now the various functions in our BPP ingredients from our interface. So go to our interface here and have spread items. So we're going to get that. We're going to get as DA ingredients that we made in the last video, and we can say can have items added. In other words, can we add something to it? Yes or no. That one done, nice and simple. Give the data asset, it's quite simply drag our data asset in and plump it on there. Again, nice and easy. Give ingredients type. We are going to get our data asset, and we're going to get ingredient type. They're all getters, so they're quite simple, most of them. Can be spread is our next one, so double click that. And again, we're getting our DA ingredients. Oh, not setting it, getting it. Can be spread. Click that into there. And okay, now the next one's starting to get a little bit more complex. Okay. So for this one, we are going to have to make two different functions. Sorry, two different custom events. Okay. So let's give yourself some space. We're going to make first one is going to be called. This one's quite a complex one. Okay. Notice something. Okay, I'll be right back. I just want to double check on something. Okay, yeah, I've just double checked. We need to change this a little bit here. If we open up our jam jar, ingredients, game item, ingredients, jar jam. We've got the contents mesh here. Okay, I don't see by name have we used it at all. We've only used it in reference for a visual at this stage, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so go ahead in your jam jar, delete it. Okay, like that. And you see your contents will disappear. Don't worry about it, compile it, it should be fine. We're going to be putting it back in just a moment. Go to your BPP ingredient, make sure you've got your base mesh selected. We're going to add our new static mesh. We're going to call it contents, compile it. Now we can go back to our strawberry jam. We've got our contents here. We can add our ingredient jam, add SM jam contents, like so. And we're back to as we were. No foul. The reason we're doing this is because we want it to be a general thing. We don't want to keep having to rewrite the code. So we're going to put the code on the parent to change when the contents of the package, in this case a jar, decreases as we take stuff out of it. Again, it's a nice little game feature. If you don't want to be bothered with it, then you can sort of skip it, but you may have to change a few other things in the code as well. So let's go back to our BPP ingredient. Now, where were we at? Yes, remove from pack. So I said we needed some new custom events. And got the wrong thing open in here. Yes, so we're going to make a new custom event. For you guys. Thank you, autosave. I hate you. Okay. We got to here and just say reduce amount in pack. Again, name it whatever makes sense to you, as long as you remember it. But I would suggest for the following long tutorials, keep them the same, or you get lost if something goes wrong. And if you ask me to help you, it's easier for me if we keep the same. I can reference it easier. Okay, so we're dragging our content. This is what threw me just now. Okay. I'm just going to make sure I didn't make that before. I'm in BPP ingredients. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. We're going to drag out of here. We're going to get relative scale 3D. We're going to right click and split the pin. Okay, we don't want to do anything with the X and Y, but we do want to do with the Z in this, in most cases. Okay. Because obviously we've got pack standing on the table or the counter, is going to go down from the top to the bottom. Okay. We're going to need a couple of new variables as always. First one we're going to call content reduction amount. And that's going to be of type float. And Yes, I do. Okay. Which we will go ahead and do in a moment. So we will, I'm just double checking to make sure we're not going to miss something. I've got that in my mind. So we're going to take our relative scale 3D on the z-axis. We're going to minus that new variable that we've added here. At the moment it's 0, but we do set that at begin play. We can drag in our contents again, and we're going to say set relative scale 3D. What we want here. We're going to split this pin. The negative there, the X and the Y remain the same. Then we're going to say as DA ingredients, so make sure you get the as DA ingredients variable. Drag off of there and get the amount in pack. And we can say, is this equal? We can promote this to a variable. I'm going to call this amount used from pack. In other words, how much have we actually used, okay, which we will be setting at some point. Okay, so the amount used from pack is going to be 0. Going to get a branch. Obviously, if the amount in the pack and the amount that we've used are the same, we're going to get our is empty variable that we made earlier, and we're going to set that to true. We now have an empty jam jar or package. So that's that one done. The next one we need to do is another custom event. Just get it correct for you. Okay. Right click, custom event again. And we're going to call this reduce amount mesh swap. Now, if you remember back, when we made our butter, there were 12 or 13, I can't remember now exactly how many meshes there are, which we also put in a data asset for it, how many different meshes. And this is where we actually give the visual effect that we're changing them. We're actually taking, in this case, butter from the pack. So we're going to get as DA ingredients. We're going to get array of meshes from there. We're going to get a valid index. We're going to promote this to a variable. I'm going to call it mesh index. Okay, we've done that. Obviously, if it's not a valid index, we don't want to start trying to remove it, or else you'll get errors. Or change it. We only care if it's a valid index. Excuse me. Excuse me. So we're going to get a base mesh or item mesh, whatever you called it. We're going to say set static mesh on the true. Copy paste these two down here somewhere. And we're going to say get a copy And we're going to use our mesh index, which we've already confirmed that that's a valid index, so there is something there. And we're going to set it to whatever that mesh is. And we're going to get our mesh index. We're going to increment it by 1. Okay. So next time we go there, it'll be 2, oh, sorry, 1, 2, and so on. You get the picture. Okay, so from the false, we're going to get a branch. And we're going to get our ASDA ingredients. It's going to get delete, can get delete when empty. We're going to do an and. We're going to get our amount used from pack here. And we're going to say, is this greater than or equal to the amount in pack? If that's true, we simply destroy the actor. So in other words, if we've used everything up and it's not in a jar or package, we can literally destroy the actor. So like in our butter instance, it's not in a container, it's not as it is, so we can destroy the actor. Whereas our jam jar, we can then now add a functionality that we can either have a recipe later on that we make jam and we can fill up our jam jars, or we could simply throw them in the bin. But it adds another opening for another mechanic in the game. Okay, so that's that for those two. So let's go back to our event remove from pack, which I can't find in my... Here it is. Okay, event remove from pack. Okay. So first of all, we are going to get our amount used in pack, and we can increment it because we've used something. Okay, so we're going to increment it from by 1. We're going to drag off of here, and we're going to say, is this less than or equal to, as add the ingredient, amount in pack. Pack. So we're going to do a branch. We really want to act on it if it's true. The first thing we do is another branch. We're going to drag in our ASDA ingredients again. We're going to get array of meshes. We're going to get its length. And we're going to say, is this length equal to 0? In other words, so if it's equal to 0 is true, we are going to use our reduce amount in pack. And if it's false, we're going to do the mesh swap. Okay, so we're going to look into the data asset. If that array is empty, like in the jam one, we're going to use this. If it isn't empty, like in the butter, it's going to use this. Okay, before we forget, let's go to our begin play. We do have some items to add there. So we've got our DA ingredients. We're going to get our content. We're going to get the relative scale. Here. We're going to split it. And okay, we haven't got that here, so we're going to promote this to variable, and we're going to call this content start. Okay, so we don't worry about the other ones. Now we're going to drag in that newly created variable. We're going to divide this from adding ingredients by amount in pack. Convert it for you in Unreal 5. If it doesn't, you can change the pin. And then we're going to get our contents reduction amount, and we're going to set that to that. So basically what we're saying is this is the height of our Z, whatever the scale of that is I believe 1. We're going to divide that by the amount of items in the pack. So in our case of our jam, we go to our strawberry jam. So we need the data asset. If we go to the data asset for the strawberry jam, we've had amount in pack is 6. So in other words, 6 times we can use that. Okay, you can change this to whatever you want. So back in our PPP ingredients, it's taking that amount in pack and it's dividing that. So every time that you take something out of it, it will reduce it by, in this case, a 1/6 of the amount. That's where we're setting that from. Okay, I'm just going over everything very quickly to make sure that we haven't set anything that we've forgotten. Do something. This is the amount pack. Okay. Okay. That appears to be all we need to do in here. We'll test it later. So I believe the next thing we need to do is in our bread actor. Quite a lot to do in that. Or to change. I think we've already done some of it. I'm going to double check. And maybe we can go ahead and adjust code as necessary. I know it gets confusing when you watch tutorials and they're suddenly changing code from what they've done before. I will try to go relatively slowly through that and explain why we're changing it, and so on and so forth. So let's open up our bread. And we've already got the function event spreadable, so let's start. In fact, I'm going to start from the top, make sure we haven't changed anything. So begin play is fine, begin overlap, same. Left click, we've got apply spreadable, so let's just check on that. Apply spreadable, okay. We don't have a butter knife reference. I think that will be okay for now. We will probably be changing this later on. Okay, so we got these layers, but we won't be changing that. Okay, so the thing we're going to be changing mostly is the apply spreadable function. First of all, we've got this new reference coming in here that we need to do something about. Plus we need a few more other things. So what we're going to do straight away is, because we don't need this, is just our test, these three items for to do with the test of when we were doing the spreadable. So you can go ahead, delete that, delete completed. I don't believe we're even using completed anymore. No, I don't believe so, but we'll leave it there just in case. Okay. I'm going to drag it back a little bit to show some space because we've got some things to add. So let's first of all, we're going to drag off here and get our knife contents. Okay. We're going to get our kitchen manager. And we're going to say get ingredients. Did we not do that? Let's have a look. I thought we did. Let's go ahead and open up our kitchen manager. Give ingredients for current stage. Okay, I've named it, but I've named it differently. Okay, so now put give ingredients for current stage. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so saying that. So what we're going to be doing here is we're using this. We're going to say, is this equal? Make sure you use equal enum to what we have on our knife. Okay. And we do a branch to check it. So drag them back again, running out of space a little bit. And what we're going to do, if it's false, we're just going to do a print string just for now. But later on, we're going to be adding some new messaging system in the pipeline. Red or orange or something here. Put it for 20 seconds. So it's long enough to read it. And we just say wrong ingredient on knife. So this basically just tells the player, hey, idiot, it's supposed to be spreading butter, not jam, or vice versa. Okay, so if this is fine, we can get current stage, like so. That continues to be the same. But here we're going to change it a little bit. Okay. We don't need to check these. We don't need to check these, and we can get rid of this. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to go all the way back here. We're going to get our butter knife reference. We're going to reroute it. To here. Sorry, I got lost. We're going to say reduce mesh scale, which is what we wrote a little earlier. Give yourself a bit of space because we still need another one. So from here we're going to say get the click count, and we're going to increment the click count on our knife. Okay. Double check. Reduce the mesh scale. We can then go into carrying on to a number of applications we need to increment. This stays the same. This stays the same. This, all this lot for now we can get rid of because we're just changing it to a call. Now remember we made this event dispatcher earlier. Drag it out, click call, and we're going to call that. This is what we bound to in our spreadable mesh. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to do? Okay, I believe we've got it done. Okay, we're going to go ahead and test it. Like I say, I've been away from this project for a little while. I don't remember what I did 100%. So we're going to go ahead and test it. If it goes wrong, we'll find out what's wrong. So first of all, we need to make sure we've got the items in the world. So we've got our jam, we've got our knife. Okay, I'm still in modeling mode here. We're going to now go ahead and add our butter. Just for a little bit of reference, try and sort of keep it fairly close to the edge of the table. Just makes life a little bit easier. And I'm going to rotate the butter just to make it a bit easier. 8 degrees, 90 degrees I should say. Okay. So if we start the game now, we should have what we've got here. One thing I do want to check is in our kitchen manager, in our Pick n Play, our current recipe, we can just set it to bread and jam for now. Okay. Just to make life a little easier to test. Okay, so first of all, everything's on the table, everything's looking good, we've got nothing on our knife. So let's first test is going to see is can we get something on our knife. Move our knife over towards our butter. You see when we hit it, our mesh has grown. Great. Stage 1, working. Next thing is go to some bread. Get on the bread, 1 click, you see our mesh has decreased. 2 clicks, great, working. Now I've got our lid on our jam here. We need to drop our knife. Left click, get rid of that lid. We pick the knife up from here. Pick up knife. Click. Cool. There we go. You see the amount went down. Like I say, you may want to add a bigger sphere trace to make it less finicky. Or maybe later on, if I might even add a point so that it actually points directly to it. So it displays something on the screen in real time. Anyway, we've got our jam. Go ahead. Can we spread our jam? Alright, then wrong ingredient on the knife. Okay, so we're obviously not setting the stages correctly. Let's have a quick look at that. So, I'm just, bear with me a moment. I'm just going to pause the video, save you sitting there. This video's been long enough as it is. I'm going to pause it. Okay, after a little bit of head scratching, I found it. My apologies, it's a little bit of an oversight on my part. In our earlier videos, we added this in our bread blueprint. We added this number of applications. Today, we also added number of applications as a root, and I spelled it correctly there and not correctly there, which is why I didn't pick up on it earlier, and that's what's causing the problem. We're actually not using the correct one. We don't need this one. We're only going to use the one that's in the parent because that's the one that we can access more, because that's what we're getting the reference for, the parent class, not the specific bread class. So it needs to be in the parent. The reason you can tell it's in the parent is because if you look here, we can't change the type. Whereas stuff that we're actually inside our own blueprint, we can change the type. If you don't see these, you simply make sure you go here and show inherited variables. Okay, you see if I click that, they all disappear. Okay, you want to make sure you can see the inherited variables. What we're going to do first of all is we need to change these out. So we're going to right click on this, find references by name, and you'll get a list. Go down the list, double click each one, it will take you to where it is. Drag in the inherited variable down here and just switch them over. Go ahead and delete that one. Find the next one. I believe there's 3 in total. Delete that one. And there's another one here. Oh, we get like 1. Wait, now did I put wrong one in the last one? No. Okay, compile that. And to double check that you make sure you've got them all, right click on that one again, find references by name. If it comes up as this, we're now happy. We can go ahead and delete that. Compile. Let's test again. Here we are, pick up our knife, add some butter on our knife. Lovely. Spread the butter. 1, 2. Put our knife down. Left mouse button to take off the lid. Pick up our knife again, go to our jam. Here we go, we've got our jam on. Got our jam. 1, 2. And we're done. And that should allow us to also go pick up the knife again. We should be able to click on that butter again. Come on, butter. There we go. And you can see our butter is reducing. We should be able to go to this bread and add to this bread. We can go to our jam, which is already open. You see the jam's reduced. And we can add our jam. So that's all working as expected. Okay. So as always, any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments below or join our Discord. All the links are in the description. I do apologise for this being a very long video. I may split it in two, so if you see an A and a B for this part, then you know I split it in two. I'll have a look when I edit it shortly. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't hesitate to subscribe. Click that like button. Click the unlike button. But if you do click the unlike button, just tell me why you didn't like it. Try and keep your comments civil. I do appreciate criticism, as long as it's constructive criticism. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon. Go ahead and consider joining that, or buy me a coffee. All the proceeds go towards making better videos, getting better equipment, so on and so forth. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.